player. He finally
He's
started.
been McConculous. I'm going to try to make that one happen. It's better than CSUT.
Well, it can't be worse.
It is. It's better than
Thank
CSUT,
you.
but I don't think many things are going to be
McConculous.
worse.
Come on, I disagree. I think I just came up with that one, and I kind of like it. McConculous.
You know what, man? No, it's great. You should say it on Football Night in America
I'm
tonight
gonna.
in front of 15 million Americans.
That's the
Sure
real
they'll love
time.
it.
Oh, I will.
Sure they'll love it.
You will. Although I don't think
You want to buy a
McConkie-
dinner?
The
That's
tr-
what you're saying about it?
1,000%. Sure.
A lot of unhonored bets on this show.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Hey, it's playoff time on Fantasy Football Pregame, Week 15. George Savaricas, Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, Lawrence Jackson. These two things I know are true. One, I'm going to be enjoying a fine meal for Matthew Berry at Applebee's because you chickened out on Football Night in America, did not say McConculous. And number two,
I didn't chicken out.
the much better nickname for Lad McConkey, it's right before your eyes. Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Way better than McConculous.
Gladiator. Don't know about that, Joe.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. And I didn't chicken out.
That's the whole point.
It's a slot. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't chicken out, but I did not get it. Was not able to get it into the show, so I do owe you a dinner.
Then how would you
On the other
classify
hand,
it?
but Lawrence owes me like 3 or 4 dinners, so maybe I'll
Bet he does.
outsource the dinner.
The
You
further
know?
we get in time, the more Applebee's dinners I will owe Matthew.
I
No
just-
matter
I
what
know
the
it's- I
results
don't
of the
know.
bet.
You just go back. I just feel like I just keep winning and winning. Your continued
A lot of
insistence
people
on,
be in their feelings.
Yeah, exactly. You believe in Kyle Pitts too strongly, and so just as a result,
I don't even
like
think
this-
we ever bet on Kyle Pitts.
I'm sure we have.
We definitely bet on Sam Howell and Desmond Ridder, and we probably came out even on that.
Yeah, I think America lost there.
Yeah.
I'd say
as
Sam
well.
Howell tonight on Sunday Night Football on the sidelines. It doesn't work. Yeah, I thought Sam Howell might be a thing this year.
I did too, but I guess not. Alas, indeed. All right, let's get to it.
Love it. Let's go to our storylines for Week 15. Matthew, what do you got?
Well, look, we went through on Thursday night a disaster of epic proportions when it comes to fantasy football. Did you start Cooper Kupp?
Ooh.
Or did you not? It's the same because you got 0 points whether Cooper Kupp was in your lineup or not. But Juwan Jennings was bad, Deebo Samuel was bad, both quarterbacks were bad. There's a chance you go into your Week 15 fantasy playoffs in a massive deficit, and maybe you played against somebody that had Puka Nacua or that had Kyron Williams, the two guys that sort of really showed up. Garendo was okay; he was like whatever. But my point is, like, I'm in a dynasty semifinal this week, and I have Cooper Kupp, and my opponent has Puka Nacua. So I'm chasing some points. I'm chasing some upside. So what do you do in terms of that's to me my storyline is how you deal with the results of Thursday night. Are you up big because your opponent started somebody like Kupp or Jennings, or are you down big? And so how do you set your lineup today, understanding what happened on Thursday night?
And we got a question here from Cody Sanders. Hashtag FF pregame. Desperate Cooper Kupp manager here. Need to start and would love your help. Full PPR, Aaron Jones or Amari Cooper. Both great matchups. Amari scares me, but a part of me thinks he's the better boom play. Do you agree?
Yeah, he potentially could be. Got a massive target share last week. We expect that Bills game to be a shootout. But having said that, I think I'm still going Aaron Jones here. We expect Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid to be active in this game, guys, and just it was the massive target share Amari Cooper got last week because suddenly he's their alpha wide receiver one, or is it just because they just didn't have a lot of guys and that was a matchup they decided to exploit, and now with more guys available, like there's certainly more risk and reward with Amari Cooper, but like I don't know that he's a better boom play because Aaron Jones could have 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He still, Amari Cooper, with that, he still didn't play more than 55% of the snaps still. And like you said, with Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid coming back, that could be a factor in this.
So I'm going Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones for me too, yeah. To your point, the touchdown equity and the chance to score 2.
And the Bears defense just got torched their last game against the 49ers.
Your defense sucks.
It's awful.
They're not good,
They,
George.
They suck as much as
Explain yourself.
as Cooper Kupp did for your matchup in the League of Assholes.
Cooper Kupp.
That's a rough 0 points you got in your playoff showdown there, Jay.
Well, to be fair, Isaac Garendo saved me with his thoroughly mediocre 11 points.
You know what? In that Thursday night game, Garendo and Kyron Williams, like, if you come out of that game, you got to be, like, thankful for what they did. Like, PPR-wise, they touched double-digit points. So.
Here's the League of Assholes. Matthew and myself, the top 2 seeds in the league, enjoying the bye week. And we've got Jay taking on Big Show, Stupid Dev, and Connor, Fantasy Life commenter, in the other quarterfinal showdown. I don't know if the Grape Slappers are making it out of this quarterfinals.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it. You know what? I'm chickening out. I'm not starting Tommy DeVito over Russell Wilson. I'm not doing it. Russ is back in the lineup.
All right, Russ.
Come on, Russ.
Good luck,
You
Russ.
was going to do that, huh?
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
He
And
was.
Speaking of Russ, here's my storyline.
Sure.
For this week, George. And my storyline is, where does Russell Wilson throw the football? Because George Pickens is out. His number one wide receiver in terms of receiving yards on DraftKings is Calvin Austin, who set at 24.5. Number one receiver overall is Pat Fryman, set at 32.5. Like Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, like they're 5.5-point dogs. Presumably they're going to have to throw going up against an elite defense. So can Russell Wilson, can he elevate these guys? He's been throwing deep a ton and doing it with success. Can he connect with Jefferson, Williams deep? Just interested to see what happens to this Steelers passing game. Or do they just lean on their defense and Russell Wilson isn't heard from and it's a Jalen Warren, Najee Harris game? So a lot of uncertainty in the Battle of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to go with the Bills and Lions here. Like, will they light up the scoreboard? How many fantasy points will we get in from how many players in this game with that over-under set right now at 54.5, the highest of this season? When you see what the Bills was able to do offensively last week against the Rams, but you also was able to see what happened to the Bills defense, and then now you got the Lions offense at home. You know how they do at home. So you got Lions offense versus the Bills defense. That's a little shaky. Then you got the Bills offense versus this banged up Lions defense. So I just want to see how many points can we get in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be, assuming it lives up to the implied game total, it's going to be the most fun watch that we have this week, especially considering last week, Lions at home win 34-31, and the Bills on the road lost 42-44. So both offenses have been cooking recently. My storyline, and
Of course, you never know, though. The Rams.
I know,
You know,
right.
the Rams, after putting up a 40-burger,
Very true.
can't score a touchdown
Very
on Thursday.
True. Yes, indeed.
Like,
I think this team's will be all right. This team will be all right. Don't have to worry about Brock Purdy in the rain.
while it's week 15 of FF pregame, we're treating this week as an intervention for Jay Croucher. And I think it's time we be open and honest, and your 80-1 Giants NFC East ticket is in serious peril. And now we need to face facts. Because the Giants today are 17-point home dogs against the Ravens. That's the largest home dog spread in 35 years. So is this going to be just a historic Derrick Henry day? Or is the entire Ravens offense going to eat? And is there anyone on the Giants side of the ball, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy, that you can trust this week? Or is this going to be a fantasy football landmine for the Giants like we saw on Thursday night with the Rams and 49ers? And speaking of players that put up 0 points, and you briefly touched on this Tuesday morning, because I had a heartbreaking Monday night. And I'm primarily going to shoulder the blame here. But I needed merely 3 yards in my home league. And this is the 25th season of the Basement Drinking Football League, the true League of Assholes. So I asked Jay, and I didn't want to bug you because you're in 35 leagues. And I'm Brooklyn George, and I was going up against the Ghost Buttoners.
Oh, man.
And I had Jalen Tolbert, everyone on bye. I had Derrick Henry on bye, Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Jordan Addison. I asked Jay, should I start Jalen Tolbert or should I go with Brandon Cooks or Andre Yoshibas? I checked the box score. There were 9 different Cowboys or Bengals I could have started that gave me 3 or more yards. I go with Tolbert and I lose, so I'm eliminated from the playoffs.
Wow.
And not only this, but in the championship last year, I had benched Harrison Butker, picked up Chase McLaughlin, the Buccaneers kicker. They lost 23-13 at home against the Saints. He had 1 extra point. I could have picked up 13 other kickers and won the title, but I picked the wrong guy. So the whole season, I'm getting chirped by my asshole buddies.
Sure.
Everyone's watching Monday night to just see if I'm going to get 3 yards out of Jalen Tolbert. And I put up another goose egg. So now lightning has struck twice.
Yeah.
I'm cursed. I'm the Buffalo Bills.
I don't know why you wouldn't have put it out to the group. Why you just
I
went
should
directly
have.
to
Hey, we
Jay.
were already.
It's
Tolbert
your
was the
fault.
right play. Tolbert, he lost. That's fine. He was the right play for 3 yards. He dropped the pass.
He did drop a pass. So on this group thread, everyone's saying name. So I have finally outed Jay Croucher, but I only myself to blame. In the future, I will bug you. I will bug you, Lawrence, because I can't make the right pick.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, are you blaming Jay?
No, I'm not. I'm blaming
Is
myself.
that okay? All right.
Blaming
I was
myself.
just checking to see.
Yeah,
Look at this. Hindsight is 2020 Matties. Wow, Brandon Cook's obviously the player.
Of course, it was Andre Yoshevich.
Yeah. Lawrence and I talked about it.
Yeah, we talked in depth.
Clearly wasn't
we were
Yoshevich.
texting, like, just out of curiosity, who gets 3 yards
Devontae
tonight?
Turpin. Yeah.
Khalil Herbert, 2 carries for 4 yards.
Any one of them would have worked.
And I'm on date night with my girlfriend, and at the end, she's saying, okay, who are you rooting for, number 1? And if you remember, end of the 4th quarter, Jamar Chase, number 1 for the Bengals, gets a touchdown. She said, well, at least number 1 for the Bengals has had a good night. It's like, yeah, that's really a feather in my cap.
That's true.
Yeah.
Jalen
is
Tolbert.
Yep.
Yep.
Well,
She's
haunt
an
my
infamy.
dreams.
She sounds like a keeper.
Yep. She was just trying to pick me up when I'm
listen,
feeling down.
Well, you don't have to worry about the playoffs in that league, so you can focus on her.
And the League of Assholes.
And the league, yes, where you were the number 1 seed.
Yes.
All right, yes, you and I don't have to worry today because you and I both have buys.
Well earned.
Which, and who else, who else has a bye this week? The New York Jets, because they're playing the Jaguars. Just basically the same sort of thing.
We'll see. They're only 3.5 point favorites.
I know.
All right. Yeah.
Are you surprised by that line?
I think the Jets' defense is pretty bad. Yeah, DJ
Well,
Reed being out
DJ
there.
Reed's not going to be,
That
but
hurts.
Sauce Gardner will be back. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Listen,
it's
you
Mac
don't want to
Jones.
play Mac Jones when he's got nothing to lose. It's very scary. It's like going up against John Wick.
I suppose.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, why did they kill Mac Jones' dog?
Burning questions, Todd. A nice segue there, Matthew. Our first game, the Jets on the road at the Jags, and that is me being raked by the coals after Jalen Tolbert put up 0 catches for 0 yards. The Jets, 3.5 point favorite. Over or under, the implied game total just 40.5. So how are you handling the Jets backfield this week? Breece Hall should be good to go, but he's dinged up. Braylon Allen, just 3.6 yards per carry. Isaiah Davis has been a bit of a thing. So what's the touch allocation going to look like for the Jets, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I think Breece Hall is going to start. I'm surprised by this, but it will be somewhat of a reduced workload. You see him there on your screen there as my running back 14. I have the other running backs. I have Braylon Allen at 36, and Davis at 44. And I think you'll see probably like a, 60-20-20 kind of split here.
Yep.
Feels like that maybe 65% for Hall.
Maybe.
Hall makes me nervous. I think if you have Breece Hall, you have to start him. But it makes me nervous because any sign of danger, if he gets nicked up at all, like they're going to pull him. They've already said it's going to be a reduced workload. You sort of, on some, I think Connor mentioned this on Happy Hour during the week, but like you want to protect the player from himself. So yes, Breece Hall wants to play, but it's a lost season. He's a franchise cornerstone for the Jets in a season in which nothing good's going to happen. Like you know what I mean? Like there's no records that they can break, anything like that. The last game that we saw Breece Hall play in, that was Week 13. He had season lows in snap rate and target share, right? And he played, he played 61% of the snaps. Isaiah Davis played 18% of the snaps. Braylon Allen played 29% of the snaps, and that sounds about right. Maybe you boost Davis up a little bit more to, again, like 20% of the snaps. You bring Allen down a little bit more, but it's like feels like a 60-20-20. And so I think Breece Hall is a mid-tier RB2 in a season in which he normally would have been a locked in RB1.
Yeah, the issue, like all 5 of the running backs in this game, like when you're doing the Jags backfield as well, between Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, the issue is like, this is just calculated guesswork. Like, we have no confidence whatsoever. Maybe Breece Hall plays 30% of the snaps. Like, maybe he gets 30%. We just don't know what is going to happen here. So he is clearly, the fact that he's going to play and has the most chance of scoring a touchdown and is the favorite to get the most carries means that he's the guy, clearly, of all the 5 running backs in this game. But still, I don't feel good about any of these.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, it's a great matchup. That's the other challenging part about this. No team in the NFL gives up more. Only one team gives up more fantasy points per game to opposing running backs than the Jaguars. They're also giving up over 150 scrimmage yards per game to opposing running backs. So Breece Hall could get you there with one play. Like, no one's going to be shocked if he breaks one for 70 yards against the Jaguars. But, this game is in Jacksonville. I always feel like Jacksonville's one of those places where it feels like a trap game. Just like
Are we scared? Like the fortress of Jacksonville?
Yeah, weird things happen in Jacksonville. William Nip, hashtag FF pregame, half point PPR 10-team league. Should I start Breece Hall, Mike Evans, or Cortland Sutton in my flex?
I'm going Mike Evans.
I'll probably go Mike Evans.
Yeah, I think he's got the best chance at a touchdown and sustained usage throughout the game. Breece Hall, there's just too many question marks.
And plus, the last time Breece Hall was in the game, too, we talk about, the best chance to get a touchdown. He got a touchdown vulture from him for Isaiah Davis a couple weeks back. So it's not even guaranteed that they give him the goal line work. Now they got 3 running backs.
They were giving Braylon Allen goal line touches as well against the Bills back earlier in the season. So, there is no certainty about anything around Breece Hall today.
Is Breece Hall the biggest disappointment based on ADP at the beginning of the season?
No, it's Christian McCaffrey. It's not close.
Yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey, not close. Breece Hall's up there. Jonathan Taylor probably up there somewhere.
Travis
Etienne is probably
second.
He's probably second after CMC.
I mean,
it
depends on whether you want to put injury in there. I mean, Olave certainly was a big disappointment as well, but he's just
if it's strictly playing,
for
that's
a guy who's been healthy.
Etienne. That's Etienne.
Yeah, my man.
Because everybody else missed games.
Yeah.
Well, no, Etienne missed 4.
No, but no one knows that.
Jonathan Taylor was the same. He missed the same amount of games as Etienne, but you would kind of.
I think you could make an argument for Patrick Mahomes. He went off. I mean, again, he was the 3rd quarterback off the board, and he's barely been a QB2 for much of this year. He's been bad.
Team's 12-1.
Fantasy-wise, I know, but they haven't scored 30 points in a game. Fantasy-wise, Mahomes has been terrible.
Been covered in months.
Yeah,
they've been covered 7 straight, yet they keep winning. It's incredible.
I don't think I want the Super Bowl again.
Probably.
No team has gone 0-7 against the spread and then gone on to win the Super Bowl.
Well, Patrick Mahomes. Well, look, last year the Chiefs were terrible. It was a terrible team last year. They got blown out at home on Christmas by the Raiders. They just go and win the Super Bowl, so nothing applies to them.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Our next game, the 10-3 Bills at the 12-1 Detroit Lions. The Lions favored by just under a field goal, 2.5. The over/under 54.5. So you'd think offensive shootout. It's going to be a phenomenal day for fantasy owners who have players in this game. Any concern, though, for James Cook, who's just inside your top 20 in running back rank?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously there's some concern because that's baked into the ranking there. As you see, running back 19, normally in a game with this kind of an over-under where we expect the scoring, Cook would be locked inside the top 10. But he comes in at running back 19 because it's not a great matchup against Detroit. Over the last 4 weeks, Lions allow the fewest fantasy points per game to running backs. And you think about last week, right, where Josh Allen handled 100% of the red zone and goal-to-go rushing attempts for the Bills. 100%. Like, James Cook couldn't even sniff a carry inside the 20-yard line last week. Season lows in fantasy points and touches last week for James Cook. He's been under 30 total yards in 2 of the past 3 games. So he's a top 20 running back for me, but just barely. And similar to what we talked about with Breece Hall, there's risk here, guys, with James Cook.
Yeah. Yes. There is concern for James Cook, plus what you said, plus the fact that we saw Josh Jacobs just get 3 rushing touchdowns against the Lions. That's not going to happen for James Cook. Look, there's an MVP to be had here by Josh Allen. Let's be real. It's an MVP to be had here. If they get inside the 5, it's gonna be Josh Allen. And it's not like it's a bad choice. Like, this is what they used to do. James Cook has 12 touchdowns this season, right? But all of a sudden now, I just don't think, I think they're gonna use their best option on the goal line, and for them, that'll be Josh Allen.
Well, firstly, how dare you abandon the Lamar MVP train?
I said there's an MVP to be had.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Me and
look,
Lamar
they-
will ride alone.
Look, they
more on that
lost the
later.
game in the odds doubled in his favor.
Well, to be fair, he had 6 touchdowns.
Exactly, right? And 3 of those touchdowns was push-in, so that's going to happen again.
So here's the thing with that, is that they are so committed to that Josh Allen push at the 1 that they will do it even if it costs them the game, which it did against the Rams. It was completely insane that they ran that play and burned the timeout. They lost the game because they chose to run that play. So
Bingo.
they are committed to it.
From the New England Raiders of Las Vegas. Interesting handle there. Pick a wide receiver and flex. DJ Moore, Mooney, James Cook, Charbonnet. Hashtag FF pregame.
The handle is Guapo Grilla. That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
You go from New England to Vegas to Guapo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have a thought here?
right.
So
I
you
do.
need a wide
Charbonnet.
receiver.
Oh,
so let's
receiver
start
and a
with needs a
flex.
wide receiver. So DJ Moore versus Darnell Mooney for wide receiver, and then the remaining 3 for the flex.
So I think it's Charbonnet.
I'm going DJ Moore at receiver.
DJ Moore and Charbonnet for me.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would do. Same.
Because Geno Smith is not going to get tush-pushed into the end zone.
No.
Definitely not.
No, and we're not expecting Ken Walker to play. He's officially listed as doubtful, but we don't expect him to play. He's in practice all week. It'll be Charbonnet. He's going to get a massive workload tonight on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man. We like Charbonnet better than Cook, and so I think Mooney will be all right today, but Kirk Cousins has been so inconsistent. Mooney did have the big game last week as well. You're not scared about the matchup with Las Vegas. So I think Mooney will be better. I think Kirk Cousins will be better, but DJ Moore is just so good.
He's getting all them targets
Yeah.
ever since Shane Walter's been gone. One more thing about James Cook. If he could break a long run, he'll score like he did against the Niners. So that's his only shot. It's not coming inside the 10-yard line. So if he could break a long one, then you're good to go. But other than that, nah.
Have the battle for Pennsylvania next. The 10-3 Steelers at the 11-2 Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles favored by 5.5, over under 43. Remember last week they had to hold on for dear life at home against the Panthers, winning 22-16. The last 3 games for Jalen Hurts, here are his passing yardage totals: 179, 118, 108.
Yeah.
Will the Eagles' passing game show any improvement this week? What say you, Lawrence?
Only if they have to, and they might not. If Saquon Barkley gets going, if he starts, doing what he does in pursuit of his own MVP run, then you won't have to do it. You mentioned the passing numbers, right? Those last 3 games. Well, the last 3 games, Saquon Barkley's had 124 yards, 107 yards rushing, and 255. You don't got to throw the damn ball if that's happening. Like, that's the plan, is to negotiate the football up and down the field. So will their passing game improve this week? You would hope so. After 108 passing yards, Jalen Hurts did throw 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, but you're gonna have to connect on those deep balls with A.J. Brown. That's usually how they get going from a fantasy perspective. And the last time A.J. Brown said something about this, he went off the next game. So I'll say yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's going to be, hopefully, there is definitely the squeaky wheel narrative with A.J. Brown coming off of a game where he had a 21% target share. It's his lowest in a full game this entire year. But to your point, Lawrence, about the Eagles and their lack of a passing attack, right? Since they came out of their Week 5 bye, Philadelphia averaging 21 pass attempts per game. That's lowest in the NFL. No team attempts fewer passes per game than the Philadelphia Eagles, and Hurts is averaging just 185 passing yards, again, since Week 5, since they came out of their bye. He's had 1 or fewer touchdown passes in 3 of the last 4. You don't care because of the rushing, because of the brotherly shoves of the world, but it's just not a team that wants to be throwing the ball all over. They're trying to limit turnovers, which they've done. They have a really nice touchdown to turnover ratio since their bye. And also, you just sort of think about how this game plays out. Like, what are the odds that they suddenly get into a shootout with the Steelers that don't have George Pickens? Like, I just don't know how the Steelers move the ball successfully against the Eagles. I'm in a league in a playoff where we have to use kickers, and I picked up Chris Boswell because that's
a good move,
I think there's a chance Boswell has like 4 field goals today.
He's done it before.
Right. This literally could be a 15-12 kind of game.
Yep. I think the issue for Hurts is that now that this Steelers defensive line is healthy for the first time in a while, I think this is the best pass rushing team in football between TJ Watt, Cam Hayward having an amazing season, Herbig has really stepped up, Alex Highsmith is back and healthy, and Jalen Hurts has really struggled all season. 1, at just being efficient against pressure, and then 2, just avoiding pressure as well, because he's one of the worst quarterbacks in terms of pressure turning into sacks, which is weird because he has this awesome O-line, and in theory he is mobile, but he's really struggled in that department, so I think he will be under pressure, and I think they'll lean more on the run.
Got a question here on YouTube from Ray Miller. Brees, Devontae Smith, or Rome Odunze?
Yeah, I mean, I want no part of Devontae Smith. He made the hate list this week again. We just talk about what a run-heavy nature of that game is, and also, I feel like if they throw today, it's going to be to A.J. Brown because of the squeaky wheel narrative. So for me, I think it's got to be Breece Hall.
Yep, Breece Hall.
Just
Breece Hall. Yes.
The amount of touches, the matchup. Odunze, we just don't know what these Bears are going to look like.
And he had
Bears.
He had inflated numbers last week with 2 touchdown catches, but
Yes.
had like 41 receiving yards. So I think Breece Hall, bigger upside if the Jets get up. Good chance he could have a 15 to 20 carry type game in Jacksonville. But with the Jets, you never really know. But I would say that's the safer play for sure. Last game, and what we're going to see on Sunday night, 9-4 Packers on the road at 8-5 Seattle. Packers haven't lost outside the NFC North since week 1. They're favored by 2.5, over under 46.5. Any concerns with Jordan Love and the Packers wide receivers this week in Seattle, Jack?
Big concerns because Matt LaFleur doesn't want to throw the ball, and that was evident against the Lions where they leaned heavily on the run. That's become the identity of the team. This is Josh Jacobs' offense for the most part. So Jordan Love hasn't been getting huge passing volume. He's also very high variance because he's dependent on these long bomb plays to connect to provide value in fantasy. And then in terms of the wide receivers, like Jaden Reed's the best wide receiver on this team. He didn't have a catch last week. So like, what are you supposed to do? Like, how lucky do you feel? Like, I think Jaden Reed is still the best option because he is the best player. And in theory, he plays in the slot, so he should have the highest floor, though that floor was 0 last week. So he would still be the guy that I like the most. If you want variance and upside, Christian Watson is their deep threat still, but I don't feel good about any of the wide receivers. I feel better about Tucker Kraft relative to position than any of them.
I agree with that. I mean, Watson had a 37% target share, which was a team high last week. But again, they spread it around so much in a game in which they don't want to throw. I mean, you saw, like I have Jordan Love at 20. I have Geno Smith at 21.
Yeah.
Like I think it's going to be a heavy running back game. Both Josh Jacobs and Zach Charbonnet on either side of the ball. Just it's worth noting that since week 8, Jordan Love is averaging under 25 pass attempts per game. Right? They're 31st in that stretch. They're 31st in overall pass rate. They're 26th in red zone pass rate. And Seattle allows the 4th fewest yards per pass attempt. Like it's a low volume passing offense going on the road to Seattle with a very good defense. Mike McDonald's really turned that defense around. They're playing very, very well over the last month. I like the under tonight. You'll see me talk about that on fantasy football. On Football Night in America. I'll try to work in a McConculus, George, but I don't know if it'll totally make sense. Like, I can't believe this line. It's McConculus.
I'm betting the over at half a McConculus mention tonight. Betting the under for sure.
Yeah, I would bet the under as well. I think that's, the under's at minus 225.
Well, that's good. If you never want to be on the show again, it's an easy pathway, McConculus pathway.
You know what? I have to be honest with you. If I never want to be on the show again, there's a lot of ways that I can go.
Yeah.
I don't need that one out. I don't need that one off ramp. There are many, many things that I could do that would ensure I'm never on Football Night in America or NBC ever again. So, but I like my gig. I like being on the show. I like my job. So I will refrain from any of those.
Yeah. I think we all like being gainfully employed.
Yeah, for
Has
sure.
its perks.
Yeah, of course it does. Allows you to, take your girlfriend out for date night and ignore her for Jalen Tolbert.
Craig, pick one, full PPR, Pacheco, Jaden Reed, Moore, or QJ, and MHJ for the Cards, who's been MIA.
Craig, a bit of a letdown after Guapo Grilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go from the highest to the high to
The lowest of the low.
just Craig. What's up, Craig?
Hey, Craig.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Pacheco here.
Pacheco.
I mean, I think there's a couple of interesting guys on this list. I do think Elijah Moore, because we're not expecting David Njoku to play. Cedric Tillman's already been ruled out of the Browns. So I do think Elijah Moore is kind of interesting here because it's going to be, we know Jameis loves to throw. It's really going to just be him and Jerry Jeudy. So those two, kind of a narrow target tree for the Browns. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. in a game in which the Cardinals should win against the Patriots. I do think MHJ Jr. is good. We talked about him during the week, Lawrence.
Yep.
You and I talked about him on Wednesday's happy hour where he's been getting a lot of red zone looks. So I do think MHJ, but just, I don't know. He's the starting running back of the Kansas City Chiefs. And even though the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs anymore, that's still
12-1. They still have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
With Marvin Harrison Jr., you'll be waiting for the touchdown. With Pacheco, you're at least getting touches towards getting a touchdown.
Yeah, so it's Pacheco for us, but and I want no part of Jaden Reed or QJ. It's just such a
Too volatile. Pacheco, he had 16 touches last week, 2 receptions. So that number should increase this week for sure. Let's go to predictions that we feel really confident in. Matthew, I'd love for you to kick us off.
Shot for
one.
shot.
Shot for shot time.
That's right. You know what? It's not often that a Panther makes their appearance on Shot for Shot, but here I am with the Carolina Panthers, and I say the Chubbler. Chuba Hubbard.
The Chubbler.
The Chubbler.
Chubbler.
I say the Chubbler, Chuba Hubbard, finishes as a top 5 fantasy running back today.
Wow.
Running backs that have seen at least 17 touches against the Dallas Cowboys are averaging 27.7 fantasy points per game. No Miles Sanders, no Jonathan Brooks. The Chubbler should get a massive workload for the Panthers, who are home favorites to the Cowboys. Tell me you're down bad without telling me you're down bad. The Cowboys are underdogs to the Carolina Panthers. How about them Cowboys? Keep pounding. Chubbler is a top 5 running back today.
Panthers haven't been a favorite since 2022. Been a minute.
Let's get chubby.
Indeed.
All right.
I'm starting Chuba Hubbard in a league, and I am, in fact, chubby about it.
Okay. All right. Well,
Follow that up, Jay.
Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley. He goes over 100.5 rush yards today. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have this great defense.
Yes.
Stop looking at me like that, Matthew. The Steelers have this great defense.
I'm remembering our one night in Buffalo. It is what it is.
Okay. So since week 7, the Pittsburgh Steelers, by rush EPA, their defense ranks 30th against the run. They've had a terrible rushing defense for whatever reason. So I think Saquon will take advantage of that. He keeps his MVP train rolling. He goes for at least 101 rushing yards.
I like it.
All right. Jay was a little flustered with his words there. I'm not going to be as flustered. I'm going to go with...
You're always cool under pressure, Lawrence.
Yeah, and I'm going to be cool with this Lamar Jackson running for 70 yards today, at least 70 yards. That's at plus 230 there.
Of course
look,
it is.
Yeah, look.
Plus money Jackson.
After their last game against the Eagles, he talked about it like everybody saying, I should run more. He said, I can't wait to get back. Even his mama got back on him about not running the ball. Then you going against the Giants, right? They've allowed the 5th most rushing yards, 2 quarterbacks this season. What better way than to stay on my Lamar MVP case right here? He probably go over 70 by a lot, but we going to play it safe right here. Let's go, Lamar.
Yeah, you don't want to be too greedy.
Yeah,
plus 230.
That's enough for me. That's enough for me.
Got it.
Exactly. You already took a Panther.
I did.
So I've got the generic shot glass here.
Oh, you also want to pound.
I keep pounding.
Yeah, keep pounding. Yeah, let's go.
Water's warm. I'm jumping
Sure.
in. Adam Thielen.
Oh, yes.
The secondary Chubbler.
Yes.
It's 3 games since
Friend of
coming
the
back.
show.
57 receiving yards, and then the last 2 weeks, 99 and 102. His number when I looked yesterday was 51.5. Just checked. DraftKings could sense where I was going, so this has jumped up 2 yards. It's now at 53.5, but I think he's going to be a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys out for the season. Their secondary a bit banged up. Bryce Young has looked like a completely different guy since his return. Thielen has been the number 1 option, so Adam Thielen, I think, is going to have a big day at home against the Cowboys.
Okay, I need it. My fantasy, the League of Assholes, my team is built around a Panthers stack of Chubbler Thielen.
Yeah.
What a ticket.
What can go wrong? What could possibly
what
go
dreams
wrong?
are made of.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to surprise you guys, but I'm going to Washington and the Commanders for this one. But look, Brian Robinson, I say Brian Robinson gets 100 yards, at least 100 yards, and a touchdown today against New Orleans. Since week 3, the Saints have allowed 14 rushing touchdowns. That's the most in the NFL. 14 rushing touchdowns. They're giving up 5.3 yards per carry to opposing running backs. Austin Eckler not going to play in this game. Yes, they'll have some Jeremy McNichols and some Chris Rodriguez, but Brian Robinson off the bye, fully healthy, in a game in which the Commanders are favored by 7.5. Robinson has a big day, heavy workload. He gets in the end zone at least once and gets me 100 yards from scrimmage for B-Rob, Brian Robinson.
Okay, I like it. Sunday Night Football, we've talked about it a little bit so far. I'm going back to that. Well, Seattle Seahawks, 2.5-point dogs. They win tonight as underdogs on Sunday Night Football. I don't understand why they are dogs of this margin. I think their defense is playing at a really high level, and it makes sense why they would have gotten better, complicated Mike McDonald's game. They're a lot healthier, and I don't trust Jordan Love. I don't trust Jordan Love going up against a confusing defense. We saw what this Mike McDonald defense did to Brock Purdy last year, famously on Christmas. So I think Love will struggle, and the Seahawks win.
All right.
I like that. Agree with that, by the way.
All right, I'm going to go with my other MVP candidate, Anthony Richardson. We back, baby.
MVP of what? Of the
Up
Colts,
to date.
Of the Colts quarterback room?
Yes, that was in question at one point.
By the way, it's a close vote.
That was
Barely
in
over your
question
guy.
it ain't close no more. But anywho, I got Anthony Richardson finished as a top 8 fantasy quarterback today, and they win the game. This is a big playoff implication game for George, your Broncos, and your boy
Believe in
Hicks.
Bo.
Yeah, look, this is, people say, oh, it's the Denver defense. This Denver defense allowed 3 top 12 fantasy quarterbacks in their last 5 games. The 2 who weren't was Gardner Minshew and Kirk Cousins, who don't throw touchdown passes no more. So they've allowed an average of 306 passing yards per game in their last 5 games. Now, while I don't expect Anthony Richardson to do that, he'll combine rushing and through the air. He'll get it done today.
Lauren?
I like it.
Yeah, love everything you said. And that's why I'm going to go with the complete opposite for my pick on the Bo Nix train. Broncos -4. I'm going to go Lawrence plus money Jackson style here. Broncos alt line to minus 9.5. Their last 3 games, they have won by 2 scores. Their last 4 home wins, they've won by 9, 32, 16, and 14. Broncos cover, and it's not going to be particularly close. I think they are going to manhandle.
I think we might have to do our own little Applebee's dinner bet.
Okay.
I think the Denver defense is a really nice play today at home against Anthony Richardson. No doubt.
Well, you said you liked his play also.
I do.
So which?
I like both of you guys.
Well,
like Switzerland?
I got bad news for you. There's no way that the Broncos can cover minus 9.5 and the Colts also win the game. So
Are you sure?
It's a conflict of interest somewhere lying in there.
unless there's something I'm missing with the math.
I prefer his bet to Lawrence. I just like Lawrence as a person.
Oh, right.
He's a likable guy.
He's a good dude.
Great sweatshirt.
That's
today,
it.
too.
Oh, it is strong.
Yeah, well,
Your wife made this one too?
shout out to Bill Belichick. My wife, his girlfriend. No, Bill Belichick just got a girlfriend. I got a wife. So
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I know, but your wife is usually the one that makes
Yeah,
the shirts, your sweatshirts.
You know what the number 49 means?
She is the who?
49? That's the delta between Bill's age and his girlfriend's age.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, Bill player, man. He still got it. He still
That's a
got
big
it.
spread.
Yeah.
Matthew was talking about
Don't hate the
chubbies
player, hate the
earlier.
game.
You talking about chubbies earlier. Shit.
I was really talking about the clothing brand.
Yep.
All right. If anyone from HR is listening, that's what I was talking about, was the popular clothing brand.
Nice disclaimer.
Here's, yeah, that's right. I'm holding a Jets shot glass. Many Jets fans have held these throughout the season. It's been a tough year for the New York Football Jets, but I think things are going to go well today, at least as it relates to number 17, Davante Adams. I say at least 75 yards and a touchdown for Davante Adams. Look, he's just been getting a ton of targets from Aaron Rodgers. Wide receivers that see at least a 25% target share against the Jaguars this season are averaging over 23 fantasy points per game. And so with a banged-up running game, I think Rodgers is going to want to pad his stats because he's actually playing for a job, as a lot of the Jets are. Davante Adams is going to have a big day today. 75 yards and a touchdown for number 17.
Okay, my last shot. Biggest game of the day, I think. Detroit Buffalo. You all right there, Matthew?
Yeah,
That doesn't
it's
taste so good?
it's a lot of, you do 3 shots of vodka, and it's just,
Maybe you've had a big holiday party week.
dude.
It's a lot of liquid. A lot of liquid.
Yeah.
Guess what? There's going to be a lot of celebration for the Detroit Lions. The Roar will continue to be restored. They'll beat the Buffalo Bills today at home, move to 13-1. I think that having extra rest really matters for this one. They're getting a little bit healthier on defense as well. And I think that the Bills defense, they revealed themselves against the Rams. They're no good. It's not a good defense. And I think the Lions will roast them and win the game and move to 13-1.
Like chestnuts on an open fire?
Exactly right, Matthew. That's
Yes.
exactly the analogy I was thinking of in my head. I just didn't
That's
get it
right.
out.
There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. The Bills are chestnuts.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Bye-bye, Buffalo.
I'm going to keep it quarterback here. I'm going to keep it dual threat quarterbacks. And I agree with Jay. I think the Lions will win. But that don't mean that Josh Allen ain't about to get these 37 fantasy points. I think he gets at least that after his big week last week. You look at the 54.5 over.
Not 36 and a half.
Yeah.
Not 38.
No. 30. He
Great
get at
player.
least
Another
37.
great week.
What did he get last week? 51.8, a new
close.
record.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say he get at least 37 here, right?
Takes his foot off the gas. this week.
I talked about how the Lions gave up those 3 rushing touchdowns last week to Josh Jacobs. Well, that'll be Josh Allen now.
Yep.
You look at the Lions defense the week before that. Caleb Williams was quarterback 5 against them. So he'll be able to do it through the air, on the ground, just like he did last week, just not to the same tune that he did against the Rams. It'll be a little tougher. That's why he only going to get 37 points instead of 51, 52 like he did last week for the current MVP favorite until Lamar Jackson takes him over. But let's go, Josh Allen. Let's get this.
He has been a fantasy machine.
Yes,
Another
he
team
has been.
that has been a machine in one-score
Do you know
games.
who has him in our league? I'm just curious.
Lay it on me.
No, I'm asking. Do you know?
I don't.
I do. There you go. Just point that out. There you go.
Man, so
Something
he
to
going
think
to get 37 points while you on your bye.
about. I know. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
It's upsetting.
It's cool, though, because he going to get 33 today.
How'd you only get the 2 seed?
I know. Yeah.
You get a cheat
Well, he did a
code.
very poor job of managing his team. He's
Well,
bailed
Rasheed-
out by Josh Allen.
No, Rasheed Rice got injured. I've been dealing with a
complaining.
bunch of
Hey,
injuries.
Christian McCaffrey over here.
Yeah, but you had Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
He covered all his bases.
Really helped me out on Thursday night.
I think he had Eli Mitchell beginning of the year, too.
Probably did.
I did. I hate the Niners. Team sucks.
Well, the Chiefs, great call by Mike Tirico with the doink for the division. They're
Yeah.
10-0 in one-score games this year. They've set an NFL record. If you go back to last season, including the playoffs, they have won 15 straight one-score games. They can't
Unbelievable.
keep getting away with it. I think they're going to have a letdown this week, and it's finally going to happen. The Cleveland Browns are not only going to cover, but Jameis, in the full Jameis experience, is going to upset the Chiefs after they just clinched the AFC West. They are going to be upset at home. It's going to be nasty weather, high 30s, rain, winds at 15 to 20 miles an hour. I think it's going to happen this week in an ugly game, like a 20-17, 17-14 type game. Browns are going to get the win, and we just saw them do it in a snow game against the Steelers a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Now I feel better about our bet with the Broncos
let's
and
see.
Colts. I feel better
There's
now.
Jameis.
Oh, he set in the standard for the whiteout game.
Yeah, he is. Let's go. Oh, yeah. Browns by 100. Come on. Let's go.
Browns by 3.
Cover first, win later. That's
Exactly.
what we're asking. So good.
Back at it on Fantasy Football Pregame. Remember the banner that we had last week, sell the team. How about we Mara enough? We won't stop.
Mr. Mara enough.
No, we won't. Mr. Mara enough. We won't stop until you fire everyone.
There you go.
Burn it all down to start anew if you're a Giants fan.
Yeah.
Inactive this week for the Giants. Drew Lock had that heel left elbow. Breece Hall officially active. Tony Pollard a go for the Titans. David Njoku inactive for the Browns with the hamstring injury.
By the way, so is Zane Gonzalez for the Washington Commanders. I know a lot of people. I saw him on some sleeper kicker lists. Zane Gonzalez is out. Greg Joseph will be kicking for the Commanders in that game against the Saints.
For the late games, notable injury updates. Kenneth Walker with the calf. Doubtful. DeAndre Swift, groin for the Bears. Questionable for Monday night. Bucky Irving, questionable, have been back. Lad McConkey, leaning towards playing, knee and shoulder. Josh Downs with the shoulder. And Dalton Kincaid battling a knee injury for the Bills.
Dustin Hopkins, the kicker, is also out for the Browns. Riley Patterson will kick today for Cleveland.
Our kicker insider.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Well, no Denny. Where's Denny? We don't have Denny around.
We got,
New thing.
we got
Breaking
Denny
kicking
later.
news.
Yeah, exactly. It's
He's
what
got
I'm
the
doing.
market cornered.
Yes.
From Javi Ramirez, full PPR, Pollard or Neighbors, hashtag FF pregame.
Yeah, I'm going Tony Pollard here. We like Neighbors, and he should get a heavy target share in a good matchup. I mean, Baltimore's secondary struggle. They're 17.5-point dogs at home. Like, they should be throwing, but it's Tommy DeVito. And, Tony Pollard, I know he was banged up, but he is officially active here. So I just think the volume of work that he should get when he's been active this year, he's been pretty good. You're not really worried about this matchup. Bengals a bottom 5 run defense over the last month. So Tony Pollard for me, guys. I don't know
Tony
about
Pollard for me as
Same.
well.
Yeah.
Simple Jack on the tube. Need one flex play. Cooper, Tucker Kraft, Elijah Moore, Swift, or Downs, Jay?
Yeah, this is tough. So I don't want Tucker Kraft. I think if you really want upside, the two guys who leap out the most to me are Cooper and Downs. And look, Josh Downs, I think we haven't seen him as much with this new Anthony Richardson, right? And so there is upside for Josh Downs. I think he is the most talented player of this group. It's just you worry about Anthony Richardson his passing and the fact that he's going up against a really good defense. Does Downs see Surtain? I think this is really close across the board. I believe in Amari Cooper more than you guys do. I just think the fact that he only played 55% of the snaps and saw 14 targets bodes really well. Also, the Lions play a ton of man coverage, which I think will help Cooper. I think he'll be Allen's #1 target. So I think it's close here, but I kind of want to go Amari Cooper. What do you think?
I would go Cooper here just because of the game environment that we expect in that game. I like Downs a lot. He had his 2 best games of the season with Anthony Richardson, but when you look at Cooper coming off that double-digit target game, was his biggest game as a Buffalo Bill. They're going to need him today, so I would go Cooper here.
If it wasn't Downs' first game back and they weren't playing Denver, you'd feel better about it as well. I mentioned Elijah Moore, too. I do think he's sort of interesting in a game in which George Savaricas says the Browns upset the Chiefs. And they do struggle somewhat against slot receivers. But I just think in terms of game atmosphere and who's got the best quarterback, Amari Cooper's got the best quarterback. So we're in agreement. It's Amari. It's Amari.
Interesting.
Yeah. Want to go back to the chubby talk?
I actually don't mind that one. Yeah.
It's Amari?
Yeah,
All right.
I could get on board
Appreciate
with
that.
one.
It's no McConculus, but it's pretty good.
Don't pander to him, George.
Believe me, he's not
Tell him
mad.
his garbage is garbage.
Trust me, I would be the first one to tell you. I could warm up to that one. Top waiver ads. We're going to begin with our running backs. It was a nice week last week for Sincere McCormick.
Yeah, the Raiders carried the ball 19 times, and 17 of them went to Sincere McCormick. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry this season. Antonio Pierce saying, like, hey, he's going to be the guy down the stretch. Scott Turner is somebody that certainly likes to run the ball, and then you think about his options, running it with Sincere McCormick or letting Desmond Ridder throw it. McCormick should be – now, Aiden O'Connell, is going to try to give it a go here, but we'll see. I do think Sincere McCormick, whether you start him today or not, I do think he's against Atlanta, he's an interesting guy to just grab.
and
He could have a Zamir White-like into the season in terms of the workload.
I want people to pay attention to McCormick too, and when you see him play, it'll raise the question like, why did it take this long for him to get on the field this season? It just go to show like when you got certain contracts or draft capital that
his underlying numbers also aren't good. Like he's slow and like
McCormick?
Yeah, I mean like
he's looked.
He's
looked easily their best running back this season. Yeah,
I agree. But you're asking me why? Like he didn't have great
he ran like a
numbers.
4.6 coming out.
Doesn't remind you of 2012 Adrian Peterson?
Not yet.
Yeah, no.
Not yet.
But
he is somebody
look,
that has played better than his numbers would have out of college and out of the combine.
After the Falcons, Jacksonville, and then the Saints. So a nice fantasy playoff schedule too
for Sincere McCormick. So whether you use him today or not, kind of an interesting guy as well. Jerome Ford has played more snaps than Nick Chubb in 4 of the past 5 games here. Nicholas Svek has a question on YouTube. DK Metcalf, Darnell Mooney, Sincere McCormick, or Rome Odunze. And I think there's some nice options there, but I don't know. I'm just not benching DK Metcalf here, guys.
Yeah, you worry a little about with DK Metcalf just being banged up so much, and it's shifting more to JSN. Really like the matchup for Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney, it's last week, 6 catches, 142 yards for the Falcons.
He was great. Mooney was great last year, but again, you sort of like who's got the best chance at a touchdown, a PPR. I think it is DK Metcalf. I do think, I don't think they'll try to get him involved tonight. So yeah, DK Metcalf to me.
If I was in a fantasy playoff right now with these 4 options, I would be starting DK Metcalf, and I wouldn't even, because sometimes we get to this point in the season and you think a little bit too much. Not to say this isn't something you should think about, but I would be going DK Metcalf.
Because here's the other thing. It's also like, listen, fantasy football, it's a game, we play for fun, but it's also a mental game. And I just sort of think to myself, like, if I start DK Metcalf and he does nothing, what are you going to do? You went down with a ship. But, like, if DK Metcalf is on your bench and he goes off and you lose because Darnell Mooney or Sincere McCormick doesn't do much, and you're sitting there going, like, wait a minute, I had DK Metcalf and I benched him for somebody named Sincere McCormick? Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. I benched him for the 3rd option on the Falcons with Kirk Cousins playing crappy? Like, what?
Yep.
Like,
you will have lost more than a fantasy matchup.
Yes. Yeah, you will hate yourself.
Yes.
Lose your soul, sleep, money, and your a lot of stuff.
You've got to go down with your best horses, and that's why I'm starting in the playoffs. Adam Thielen, Jake Ferguson, and Travis Etienne. And potentially Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, but you benched Tommy DeVito.
But that's a perfect example. Like it's like you go Russell Wilson there. You ride with that.
He's going to score 9.8 points, Russell Wilson, against the Eagles defense, but that's fine.
And Tommy DeVito will get 11. Yeah. And it probably won't even decide the game anyway.
It probably will, similar to George's thing. You'll probably lose by like all you needed was 3 more yards. But look, ultimately, fantasy football is an odds-based game. You're playing the odds. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but just more often than not, DK Metcalf is going to be a better fantasy option than Darnell Mooney or Sincere McCormick. Just bottom line.
Concur.
So you're just playing the odds there, right? And hope it works out for you as well. We've talked about Elijah Moore a few times. As I mentioned, sort of hinted at, no team has allowed more yards or receptions to the slot than the Kansas City Chiefs. No David Njoku today, no Cedric Tillman. So it's really going to just be Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore for the Brownies. Xavier Legette, as long as we're talking about the Panthers, Jay, he's had back-to-back games with 8 targets. He's, number 1 wide receiver. Maybe the narrative on him is a little bit different if he comes down with that pass against the Eagles. But Legette, a first-round talent. And season high is in target share and receiving yards for Jalen McMillan last week as well. You see Demario Douglas on your screen. So these are just some of the guys that we think could be potentially interesting if you're truly desperate at wide receiver today.
And Legette, Thanksgiving, just dropping that in off the cuff. Little raccoon.
It's been an up and down rookie season for Legette, but I think the future's bright there. I believe in him more than I don't.
Jay Enright on YouTube, Tracy, NWI, or McMillan, full flex PPR, nervous about Baltimore matchup.
Yeah, I would be as well.
Yeah, I don't blame you for being nervous about it, but there's always junk time. He's involved in the passing game. I'm going with Tyrone Tracy.
Yep. He's going to get the amount of touches that don't even compare to the other 2 guys.
It's a tough matchup against Baltimore, but Tyrone Tracy is going to touch the ball between 15 and 20 times today. They don't want Tommy DeVito throwing it. And I could see them dumping it off to Tracy. Westbrook, NWI is going to get 3 targets today.
And one going to be an 80-yard touchdown, but hey, That's
maybe.
neither here
Like,
nor
they'll
there.
take that shot, but it's just, again, you're playing the odds, and Tyrone Tracy is the answer there.
Yep.
Finally, it's quarterbacks and tight ends. These are players available in more than 50% of leagues. Streamer action. It was a good week last week for Aaron Rodgers at Miami. Another road game in the state of Florida. He's clocking in at number 12 this week. Matthew on the road at the Jags.
Jags have allowed a top 12 quarterback finish in 9 of their 13 games this season. 9 different times this year, a quarterback facing them has finished top 12. Rodgers certainly has a shot today. Jameis Winston, we've talked about him. He's averaging over 43 pass attempts per game since becoming the starter. He'll chuck it. Against Patrick Mahomes, he may absolutely have to. We'll see how that game plays out. Hunter Henry, because we are legally obligated to talk about Hunter Henry like every single show of every single episode. It's crazy, but 3 straight games with 8 or more targets for Hunter Henry, and he's had 12 or more fantasy points in 5 of his 7 full games with Drake May under center. Juwan Johnson, they don't have a lot there in New Orleans these days as well, but at least Juwan Johnson, since week 11, he's averaging basically 12 fantasy points per game.
RCA on YouTube, need a tight end, full point, PPR, 4 options, Calcaterra, Juwan Johnson, Stone Smart, or Kyle Pitts. Thanks for the help.
Mr. T and so smart. That's okay, RCA. Get it next time.
Yeah.
These aren't amazing options.
No.
I would
Juwan
almost
Johnson,
go
Juwan
Stone.
Johnson.
I would go Stone. I'll go Stone.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Will Dissly have the success there with Justin Herbert, even though they want to, continue to run the ball. The tight end has been used in that offense. So if you're bringing up Stone Smart, Juwan Johnson, Calcaterra, and Kyle Pitts, you bringing up 4 tight ends, like you desperate. So swing for them fences right here. Go Stone Smart with who's got the best quarterback out of all these guys.
But did the Falcons, they drafted Kyle Pitts 4th? He went 4th in that draft?
Yeah.
Ahead of
Imagine when
Jamar
they
Chase.
drafted him, and you would be thinking that it's a genuine conversation against Grant Calcaterra and Stone Smart, who can start in the fantasy playoffs.
Goes crazy. It's crazy. I think I'm going to go with Juwan Johnson there again.
Yeah.
I know it's Jake Haener, but he's really all they got. He does have a nose for the end zone here. As you look at our desperation plays, now these are all guys that are available in over 80% of Yahoo leagues, and somebody that we think could, if you're truly desperate, if you're in a deeper league, that could provide some value. And I went with Stone Smart, right? After Will Dissly was injured last week, he had a 25% target share. Nice matchup with Tampa Bay, as the Bucs have allowed the second most receiving yards to opposing tight ends.
Yep. I took Noah Gray, who's been continually getting more and more involved, going up as well against the Cleveland pass rush that has been awesome. Think that he might get some more runs. So tight end 18 for Matthew, and he's available in over 80% of leagues.
Yeah, for me, Tim Patrick, season high in targets and receptions, 7 targets and 6 catches last week for 43 yards. He's went over this number 3 straight games. I'm sorry, he's went over 65% of the snaps in 3 of his last 4 games. So he is their number 3 receiver. And I'm going to keep on talking about this high over/under in this game. So Tim Patrick, you want to start players in this game if you can.
For me, it's Josh Palmer. Somehow he's still available in more than 80% of leagues. Last week against the Chiefs, 6 catches for 78 yards. Assuming Ladd McConkey's a go, we don't know if he's going to be 100%. I feel like Josh Palmer's carved out at least enough of a role in this Chargers offense where he's their preeminent deep threat. So I expect him to have another week where he's maybe 50 to 60 plus receiving yards, a good desperate plug and play. Hard to top last week, what we did for Prop a Shot. This brought to you by DraftKings. Went 4 for 4 across the board here. Might be the first time on FF Pregame where we have 100% completion percentage.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
All right, George, start us off.
Well, I got blocked last time by Matthew, so I'm going to go on this side of the desk.
I'll give you a clean pocket this time.
I don't know. A little gun shy. Well, no, Matthew, you
start
start us off. You started us off last week.
Why am I starting this off?
Yeah.
Now I have to get up. You go ahead.
Whoever
Gotta
went
warm
first
up.
last week,
I got to warm
Well, yeah,
up.
it's your
Whoever
show.
went
You're the
first
namesake.
I got to warm up.
Wait,
I'm the kid in the Carolina Panthers commercial. Remember that? With Cam Newton?
I don't.
Let's
Wow.
go. Let's go. Let's go. Championship Sunday.
There you go, George.
You go for it.
Yeah. On the move.
I'm gonna go lefty here today.
Oh, damn. Oh, wow.
1 for 4. Nice.
That's all right.
We'll always have one.
I had made it like 4 weeks in a row, so I just wanted to make it interesting.
No one remembers that.
You're right. That's why I'm going to be posting it on social media like you know I will.
I know you will. Believe me.
My favorite part of doing fantasy football pregame is right when we get offset. Lawrence then has his best of reel. That's cut from the show.
Right.
And
That's all Lawrence.
That we just see 1 minute of Lawrence's highlights.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
for everybody out there, if you don't celebrate yourself, who will? They'll tell you when you're wrong, but they don't tell you when you're right. So when you're right, damn it, you let them know.
No, I understand. It's just funny. If anyone watched your social but never watched the show, they'd just be like, wow, Lawrence does 2 hours by himself.
That's a great show you got there.
And Matthew, the selective editing where it just kind of zooms into Lawrence.
A couple weeks ago, my last pregame picture, I photoshopped you in there on the side there. Shout out to Matthew Berry, who got me on this show. So, got to show love sometimes.
Sometimes, every once in a while.
Sprinkling in a little love.
Yeah. All right.
First prop. How about this number for King Henry? It's up to 105.5 for Derrick Henry rushing yards against the Giants, Jay.
Can you imagine the terror of betting the under on this prop? So you know that the Giants are just going to get absolutely stomped today. I would be more reticent to take the over, if not for the fact that the Ravens are coming off a bye. And I think that Henry rested. He should have the greatest game script imaginable, 16.5-point favorite. So I'll take the over on King Henry, 105.5.
To 17-point favorites.
He's also on a bye this week for me. It's very frustrating.
No, it's all right. You'll lose next week.
Yeah, probably.
Hopefully.
Sneaking suspicion, I know the answer here for Lawrence's prop. Anthony Richardson, passing yards and rushing yards, 238.5.
You think you know this. You think you know the answer. You do. I'm going over here. I'm going over. This number actually went up by a yard. Denver.
A whole yard?
A whole yard. So now I'm feeling real good now. And actually, Denver has given this up in 4 out of their last 5 games. Again, the one guy who didn't get it was Kirk Cousins, and he don't throw touchdowns no more. So I'm going to say over. If he's going to be the top 8 fantasy quarterback this week, he got to hit this number.
Matthew, Jaden Daniels, passing yards, 217.5.
Yeah, I'm going under this. Look, he's been under this number in 4 of the last 5 games. They're 7.5-point favorites against Jake Haener. I just don't think they're going to have to throw that much. Noah Brown, their number 2 wide receiver, on IR, unfortunately, so it'll be a combination of like Olamide Zaccheaus and Diami Brown, Luke McCaffrey as their number 2 wide receiver, Jameson Crowder back with the team as well. But I don't think they're going to throw that much. Like, they'll take some shots to Terry McLaurin, but, and Zach Ertz will be involved. But it feels like this is a run-heavy game. You'll see Brian Robinson, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, and Jaden Daniels. I think you might see a defensive touchdown as well. Give me the under 217.5 for Jaden Daniels today, passing yards.
That was how Connor wooed you on Friday.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson Jr., the anytime touchdown.
And that's hint about what's coming up. We're doing our touchdown parlay. Guess who this kid took? Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm on the Adam Thielen hype train. So we got a prop here. His receptions at 4.5. You feeling the same, Jay?
Yes, proud grape slapper Adam Thielen. Need a big game out of you today, Adam. I need you to do everything the Cooper Cup didn't. I need you to combine what I was supposed to get from Cooper Cup with what you were supposed to do as well. I think he goes over. Favorite matchup against Cowboys defense that is really struggling. Trayvon Diggs out. They're really banged up. And I think that as Bryce Young's number 1 option, he will get 5 receptions at least.
Jerry Jeudy for the Browns has been popping off now that Jameis Winston has been the starter. His receiving yards number this week at 70.5, Lawrence.
He's hit this in 5 out of his last 6 games, but I'm actually going to go under. Chiefs going to slow this game down, much like they did last week against the Chargers. I don't think they allow him to get over with a 38-yard reception like they did Josh Palmer last week. So I'm actually going to go under with Jerry Jeudy here.
Okay. Matthew, we got Devontae Adams, longest reception at 23.5.
And I'm going over. Like, he's had a reception of 24 or more yards in 3 straight games, 4 of the last 5. So I think he gets this number pretty easily against a Jaguars secondary that's allowed 6 different receptions of 24 or more yards to wide receivers in just their last 3 games. So they give up big plays to wide receivers. Adams has hit this number in 3 straight, 4 of the last 5. Give me the over. Devontae Adams, 23.5, longest reception today.
I wonder where you're going to go with this one, Jay. We got Josh Allen passing attempts at 34.5.
It's tough. I think the way that this would go under is if the Lions just control the clock by running the ball. At the same time, Allen has gone over in 4 of his past 5. And I think this is going to have to be another Josh Allen Superman game. I think that's the only way that they're going to win this is if he balls out, if he's doing his 50 fantasy point thing that he did last week. So I think that he'll throw the ball at least 35 times.
Instead of just a measly 37,
Yes,
like Lawrence
instead of
said this week.
37.
Zach Charbonnet, Lawrence, rushing and receiving yards, 94.5.
I'm going to go under here, too. Seattle hasn't allowed this. Green Bay hasn't allowed this number to a running back in 4 straight games. You know who those running backs were? Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Devine Achane, CMC. Those some pretty good running backs, I might say. I don't think he hits that today.
Matthew Chase Brown rushing attempts for the Bengals at 16.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the under here. Look, he's been under this number in 11 of his 13 games this year. Tennessee has allowed a running back to go over this number only twice this entire year, including last week against Jacksonville. Chase Brown will be involved quite a bit. He'll be in the passing attack as well. But they're just so good, and I don't think they're going to need to throw or be involved as much against Tennessee in the passing attack as they have been previously. I think they split it up. I'm not really worried about Tennessee, so give me the under 16.5 rushing attempts. I think Brown gets over 20 touches in this one, but under 16.5 rushing attempts for Chase Brown.
This next one just doesn't sit right for me. Doesn't feel right to ask a ride or die question to Jay, as we're going Kyler Murray, interception.
I can no longer be trusted in Kyler Murray analysis, in fairness.
Yeah, you're not quite impartial at this point of the season. So over under a half an interception for Kyler Murray.
Go under for my friend Matty Ride or Die.
K1.
Yeah, so he's thrown 4 in the past 2 games. That's a problem. But going up against a suspect Patriots pass defense, and until these past 2 weeks, Kyler had been great at avoiding turnovers and interceptions. So I think that he will avoid throwing it to the other team today.
You were just extolling the virtues of Tim Patrick.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I was fumbling my words like Jay was when Matthew looks at him and say chubby, but I'm going to go over right here for the 29.5.
Nice.
He's hit at least 43 receiving yards in 3 straight games. And again, the over-under, man, 54.5, and he's hitting 40 receiving yards. So I'm going to go over here for old Tim Patrick.
Our last one, A.J. Brown, receiving yards, 82.5, Matthew.
It's a big number in a low-scoring game, but I'm still taking the over. Look, Steelers have allowed a wide receiver to go over this number in 3 of their last 5 games. Like Jerry Jeudy, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin all did this. And he went over this number, A.J. Brown did, in 5 of his first 6 games. Now, he hasn't done it recently. He hasn't gotten there in 3 of the last 4, but as we've talked about, squeaky wheel narrative, like I think they're going to want to get this going as well, so I do think he gets fed today.
Yeah, and that quote was from Eagles linebacker Brandon Graham. I know one is trying, 11 could be better with how he responds. They were friends, but things have changed. That was subsequently walked back. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts singing Kumbaya, saying everything's good in the locker room. DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 place to bet touchdowns. We have a good touchdown parlay coming later in the show. New customers bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins, download the app. Use the promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crowd is yours.
Aaron Rodgers signing some autographs and making a birthday wish come true for a Jets fan. Hasn't had much to smile about this year, but at least
These reactions to an Aaron Rodgers autograph are everything. Are they everything, Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, look, they got on
They're
some Jets
happy.
gear. They're like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers just threw for 300 yards for the first time in some years, you know. So. Now we play the Jags.
yeah.
We can do it again.
December to remember.
Lamar Jackson is going to go against the Giants. He's going to go off QB1, 40 fantasy points. 40 fantasy points. Lord, don't lose.
See, Lawrence sent that to the group chat today, and I'm like, that's super cute, but there's no way a kid that cute as Lawrence is, right? We all agree with that,
You know,
right?
there's a very good way that could happen. Where you think she'd get her looks from?
Your wife is lovely. I will say this. Your wife is lovely.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. Your daughter's super cute. And that clearly was unscripted, right?
Not at all. Of course, she knows that Lamar, you know, she's predicted 40 fantasy points for Lamar. So hopefully the Ravens don't get up too much or he won't be able to do that. So you know.
For those scoring at home, the Jackson family has AR5 40 fantasy points. Josh Allen just 37.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And
I
Lamar
got
40.
So in the Jackson household, we got Lamar at QB1 this week and Josh Allen just under at QB2 with his 37 points. Yeah.
And Anthony Richardson at QB1.
8. He'll be a
1.5.
top 8. He'll be in the 20-ish, 30 range, something like that. Yeah.
From the Jackson family rankings to Matthew Berry's.
See, Matthew
Top
got it
10
too.
quarterback ranks. You got
Oh, sure.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, 1-2. Sell me on Kyler Murray this week.
Yeah, I've only been doing it all year, and eventually I'll be right. Look, look. He's been fine this year, just hasn't been ride or die. You see him there on your screen. He's my QB7 this week. I like the matchup against New England. Since Week 6, the Patriots allowed touchdown passes at the highest rate in the NFL. The last 3 quarterbacks to face New England all scored at least 21 fantasy points, and in games in which the Cardinals win, Kyler's averaging over 21 points per game. Now he's averaging just 13.5 in losses, but given the fact that Arizona is a 6-point favorite at home, they need this game desperately to keep their playoff hopes alive. I think the Cardinals win. I think Kyler's a big part of it. He's my QB7 today. Kyler has a big day against the Pats.
Jay, for Jalen Hurts, does he need to have a bigger day with his legs or his arm to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback?
Well, I think the thing with Jalen Hurts, and I'm getting texts from people like, should I start Jalen Hurts or Tua? Like, that's where Jalen Hurts is at with his lack of passing production.
Yep.
We talk all the time about touchdown-dependent tight ends. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback in history who's a tush-push-dependent fantasy quarterback where without the tush-push, he just hasn't been that good this season. So, look, you're still starting Jalen Hurts, and I think that when you kind of have to, visualize his value, you just got to imagine the tush-push because he's probably going to do it once. He's probably going to score a touchdown, and that's going to cover up for a lot of sins. But this is a big day for him and the passing game with A.J. Brown in a very tough matchup against Pittsburgh.
Peel it down to 11 through 20 in the quarterback ranks. Justin Herbert, we've seen him dinged up throughout the course of the season, but a great matchup this week against the Bucs, Matthew.
Yeah, 5 of the 7 quarterbacks to face Tampa Bay, to your point, have scored at least 23 fantasy points and thrown for at least 275 yards. The only 2 that didn't, Tommy DeVito, who Jay is thinking about starting, and Aiden O'Connell, who left with an injury. So, Justin Herbert's a QB12 for me today. I think he has a nice game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game has sneaky shootout potential, but certainly, most importantly here, I think it's hard to run against the Buccaneers. I think the Chargers haven't really been able to run the ball effectively since J.K. Dobbins got hurt. They're going to win this game or be competitive in it on the arm of Justin Herbert. He's a top 12 play for me today.
What are you projecting this week for Tua as they're on the road at the Texans?
Yeah, he's been the second best quarterback in fantasy over the past month. 4 weeks, 4 games, however you want to say it. He's in each of his last 3 games, he's thrown the ball at least 40 times. If you're going to keep getting that type of volume, he's going to have another top 8 fantasy quarterback week.
Zandel 316 need to win to get to the final. Superflex need to 6 point per touchdown. Pretty standard. Hurts, Tua, or Daniels.
I think it's Hurts and Daniels.
Yep.
Yeah, Hurts and Daniels as well. But I also will say Zandel. I don't think you can screw this up because I think all 3 have really good games here. But Daniels and Hurts for me as well.
Just the rushing upside is so massive for those guys.
Correct.
Okay.
So there you go.
Let's go over to our running back ranks.
Sure.
The Chubla.
Yes.
Stop
Chubla. No, America's favorite running back, Chuba Hubbard. And it's not the Chubler, it's the Chubler. I don't know why that worked out that way, but it is. It's the Chubler, it's not the Chubler.
Don't question it.
Yep. Look, he's one of only 3 running backs this entire year with 30 or more touches. in multiple games. The other two, Saquon Barkley, Kyren Williams. And it's just that workload that gets you there against the Cowboys. As I talked about this earlier, running backs have seen at least 17 touches against Dallas, averaging over 27 fantasy points a game. Six of those seven running backs scored at least one touchdown. 3 of them scored multiple touchdowns. Panthers are home favorites. I can't say that enough. Panthers are home favorites to the Dallas Cowboys that are so beat up on defense. Cowboys are a bottom 12 run defense over the last month as well. Give me the Chubbler, Chuba Hubbard, as a top 5 play today.
Also hanging in the top 10, Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions, and he's got to be licking his chops getting ready to face this porous Bills run defense.
Yeah, one that has allowed at least 114 rushing yards to running backs in 3 of their last 4 games, so expect something big out of him today.
11 through 20, and you've been hyping up Brian Robinson Jr. all week, Matthew, for good reason at New Orleans.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we've talked about this a few times, just how bad the Saints are against the run, right? They've given up at least 20 fantasy points to running backs in every game this year but one, starting in week 3. Remember, they had those first 2 weeks of the season where they were awesome. We were like, wow, Saints Super Bowl in New Orleans, and now not as we were so young and we sit back.
Which one of y'all said that?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Well, they did. To be fair, they scored on their first 17 drives of the season.
Yeah,
and then
they looked
nothing good
awesome,
happened.
Lawrence.
They
They were favorites to win the division.
They blew out the Cowboys at home, which at the time seemed
yeah,
impressive.
that 100%. The good
It
old
looked impressive.
The good old 2-week season.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Voodoo from YouTube wants to know. He says, hashtag FF pregame, full PPR, need to Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, or Garrett Wilson. I started Jennings in Cup, played against Puka. I'm the number 1 seed going against the 8 seed, George. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Man.
You're the number 1 seed. So need to Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, or Garrett Wilson in a full PPR for a guy that's chasing points. How are we feeling here?
Yeah, advise against your fellow number 1 seed brethren.
I'd say Brian Robinson Jr. for sure, and then you're debating Garrett Wilson or Chase Brown. Chase Brown, he's been tremendous. I mean, he's top 3 fantasy running back the last 5-6
For sure.
weeks. I'd probably go the 2 running backs.
Yes.
Here.
I would go the 2 running backs too, but would hate leaving Garrett Wilson on the bench for this matchup.
I know, it seems weird. I will say, though, it does feel like Rodgers has been favoring Devontae Adams over Garrett Wilson recently.
Oh, yeah.
I just think the guaranteed volume. Chase Brown and Brian Robinson are each touching the ball at a minimum of 15 times, probably north of 20, in games that will positive game script for both. They're both like kind of the only game in town, whereas Wilson does have more competition for touches. So we're on agreement here. Go with the running backs here. Good luck to you, Voodoo.
Sticking with the Saints, Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara, who
I've heard of him.
has been dealing with some injury issues. We just mentioned, obviously, Brian Robinson, top 20, Alvin Kamara, another top 20 running back in the ranks this week, Jay.
Yeah, so this is going to have to be a PPR scammery job for Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara, 7.5-point dog at home with Jake Hayner at quarterback. I mean, he's still set at 59.5 rushing yards on DraftKings, which I think this game script might get out of hand. I think an interesting thing in this game is just, as well, Jaden Daniels, who's had a little bit of a tough month or so leading up to the get-right game against Tennessee. I think him coming off the bye will really help whatever might have been ailing him physically. And I think in terms of how that affects Kamara, I think that's bad news, because I think that the Commanders are going to blow them out, and Kamara is going to have to provide value with these little 5-yard dump-offs.
Spinning it down to 21 through 30, and this week's running back ranks, Jonathan Taylor and the Colts are at Mile High City, and he is 23rd this week against the Broncos. We saw the Broncos, their last game, exposed through the air against the Browns, but that rush defense has been pretty stout for most of the season, Matthew.
It really has been. It really has been. You know, listen, since Anthony Richardson returned, okay, Jonathan Taylor ranks dead last, Lawrence, dead last among qualified running backs in fantasy point per touch. Your guy A-Rich just absolutely killing JT in those games. Taylor has seen a 38% of the team's goal line rushes, just 38%, under 40% for one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL. He has just a 3.9% target share, so they're not using him in the passing game. They're not using him near the goal line as well. and you don't like this matchup against Denver. Since week 7, guys, the Broncos have the #1 ranked rush defense in the NFL. They've allowed a league-low 3.5 yards per carry. I blame Lawrence Jackson for all of this. Jonathan Taylor is my running back 22.
It's tough, too, because this should be Anthony Richardson and his running ability should be helping. They just haven't been able to get it done in the just straight-up running game.
Their offensive line has been beat up all year.
Offensive line, they get a guy back today. We'll see how it goes, but the line has been banged up a little bit.
Well, Jonathan, it just doesn't look right. Like, he just doesn't look
true.
nearly as explosive as he did.
He
dealt with
doesn't.
a lot of injuries.
Yeah, friend of the show, Jonathan Taylor.
40-64, help! Full point PPR. Do I go with James Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Brian Thomas, or Zay Flowers?
I'm going James Cook
I
there.
think it's James Cook too. I don't trust Taylor at all. Again, going up against the Broncos.
Definitely don't trust Taylor at all. Brian Thomas, I know he had the nice game last week, but it's Mac Jones, and Sauce Gardner is going to play for the Jets. No DJ Reed, but Sauce Gardner probably is on Brian Thomas a decent amount here as well. So it's James Cook or Zay Flowers. I could see the argument for Zay Flowers, just in a game in which Baltimore wants to make a statement. To your point, Lamar's like, what's all this Josh Allen talk? I want to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and just
See, I hope I don't want them to do that. They don't need to do that.
I know they don't. I know, and it's Tommy DeVito. Maybe there's a defensive touchdown as well. I think what I would say is I agree with the guys. Floor play, you're going with Cook. Upside, I think you're going Zay Flowers.
Right on.
Zay Flowers could have 100 yards and a touchdown easy in this game.
Easy,
Again, if you
definitely.
want sky-high upside, then Brian Thomas, who was almost had a 200-yard game last week.
Oh, I mean, he's.
You love that Brian Thomas almost.
It's unbelievable.
He's great.
Every
almost been
week you're
leading
like,
the league
oh.
in receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of guys who'd have some MVPs for them almost numbers.
I mean, he is a special case though, Brian.
I've said this all season long. One of the things that is so impressive about Jaden Daniels this year is that he is throwing to a receiving core worse than he had in college last year.
Yeah.
He had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas last year.
Yeah,
Think about that
yes.
at LSU.
Yeah. He pretty much stopped that argument, because there was a lot of talk pre-draft, like, oh, well, of course he's this good. He's got Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Well, now he doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. He's Olamide Zacchaeus and Diane Brown. And yeah, exactly.
Well, a quick sidebar. How about you had the Heisman Trophy winning ticket last year with Jaden Daniels, and then also cashing
shout
Travis
out
Hunter.
there.
Yeah, you're 2 for 2 with Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
Travis
so
Hunter.
let's go, Travis Hunter.
Very
Shout out
stressful.
there.
You have a lot of Travis
It
Hunter.
was very stressful watching the ceremony.
Yeah.
So I thought there was still a 2% chance Genty could win.
It was a 2%.
It was close.
It was a 2% chance, probably. Yeah.
Okay, we also had Tyrone Tracy, top 30 running back ranks. Let's go over now to the wide receiver ranks 1 through 10. Devontae Adams, and you mentioned it seems like Aaron Rodgers is now feeding more of Devontae Adams over Garrett Wilson past couple weeks with the Jets, Matthew.
Since week 9, he's got a 31% target share, George. 31%. He's had 11 or more targets in 4 or 5 games, and you love that matchup against Jacksonville. Wide receivers that get at least a 25% target share against the Jags this year, averaging over 23 fantasy points per game. So Devontae Adams is going to get a big target share and a great matchup. He's my wide receiver 4. He was my shot for shot as well. 75 yards and a touchdown is what I'm calling for number 17. Free Taco Bell for everyone.
T. Higgins let down.
You have to go to Devontae's house for it, though. That's the problem.
What a flex to have a Taco Bell in your house.
Is it?
Yeah, fair. Point, counterpoint.
if you got a Taco Bell in your house, you got a lot of bathrooms, too. You're going to need them.
There's a direct correlation between Taco Bell and
I'd
your
rather
house.
live next door to an Applebee's. That's what I would rather.
Yeah.
That's a better gig.
You're definitely a company man. T. Higgins only had 2 catches on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys, Jay.
Down game for T. Higgins, but he did almost have a touchdown in the end zone. He's a couple inches away from that, and if he catches that, then he ends up with 10, 11 points, and no one's really saying anything. So I think T. Higgins, just his target share has been so consistent over the course of the season. It has rivaled Jamar Chase's. So I think T. Higgins will be more than fine in a matchup that it's not super scary going up against the Titans, because really no matchup is scary for Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase.
No, sir, it is not.
Jordan Addison has been catching fire now for the Vikings late in the season.
Yeah, he has. And you know what, George? Something to think about for you. In addition to all the other disasters that is your Chicago Bears, they've also allowed the 3rd most receptions and the 4th most yards on deep passes. When you think about all the ineptitude of your Chicago Bears, among them, not at the top, but it's on the list there,
definitely on the list.
is how poor you guys defend deep passes. And so Jordan Addison, who's getting a lot of looks, not only just in general, but certainly down the field, is doing well. Last 4 weeks, he's got a 29% target share. Only Jamar Chase in that time frame has seen more red zone targets than Jordan Addison. Sam Darnold playing very well and looking for Jordan Addison. So against Georgia's Chicago Bears, he should have a good day. He's my wide receiver 11 this week.
So I looked it up. Since the Bears fired Lovie Smith after a 10-6 season in
Lovie.
2012,
Yeah.
they've had one season with a winning record the last 12 years. The Bears have been around since 1920. That's the worst 12-year stretch in franchise history.
There
Since
we
firing
go.
Lovie.
Not bad.
So in
all
100,
we
in
know-
100 years, that 12 years is the
105
worst.
years. So all we
Congratulations.
know is pain right now if
Yeah.
you're a Bears fan.
That's all right. Things going well for the Bulls and White Sox, though.
Yeah, but the
all
Craig
good.
Counsell being the longest tenured Chicago head coach at 14 months is just preposterous.
I mean, but whatever. I mean, yes, okay. So the Bulls, the White Sox, the Bears, it hasn't gone your way.
Yeah, they
but
all suck.
But you know, Jalen Tolbert. Oh shit, never mind. Sorry.
Listen, George. Listen, you got DJ Moore, right?
Yeah, there we go, Lord.
There you go. He
Right when
was
I'm
in-
feeling down, you build me
there
back
you go.
up.
You got
You only
DJ.
lost your playoff spot by 3 yards. Like you got that going for you.
But you got DJ Moore, who's got at least 6 receptions and 7 targets in 4 straight games. Over the last 4 weeks, he's wide receiver 8 on a points per game basis, despite only getting 49 yards last week. So you got DJ Moore, man.
Yeah, sweet. Love it. Tanner Santucci on YouTube.
I like that name, by the way. Tanner Santucci is a good name.
It's got some
Yeah.
chutzpah.
Yeah, it does.
Full point PPR 10-team league flex decision. Help pick 2. DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, Brian Thomas, Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Waddle. 2 out of 5.
I get the decision because that's some tough. That's all right. Let's start with what we're getting rid of. I'm getting rid of Jonathan Taylor, and as much as I'm definitely getting rid of Jonathan Taylor, and I think I'm getting rid of Brian Thomas
getting rid
as
of
well.
Brian
Even
Thomas.
though we love Brian Thomas, but it's Mac Jones. You'll see some Sauce Gardner. So now we've down to DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, and Jalen Waddle.
DJ Moore is in there for me.
I think it's Moore and Flowers. I get that it's
think so,
scary
too.
being a 17-point favorite in game script, but it's not like they're going to stop throwing the ball in the second
No.
quarter. Like, they're going to stop throwing the ball in the fourth quarter. So you still got
Yeah.
3 quarters of Lamar Jackson going up against a bad defense, throwing to Zay Flowers.
I think that's right. It's Moore and Flowers. Tanner Santucci.
You just wanted to say
I
his
love
name.
that.
Santucci.
Tanner
Sounds like he would
Santucci.
I
be the
can buy.
lawyer representing Val Kilmer and Heat.
I was thinking like more like an elite
Tanner
lacrosse
Santucci
player.
for the defense, Your Honor. Get your hands off my client. I'm Tanner Santucci. Yeah, exactly.
bad.
It's
No,
a
it's not
good
bad.
name. It's a good, solid name.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
strong.
It's strong
Way
name.
better
Exactly.
than the Conculus.
Yeah, exactly.
Barely inside, barely among the top 30. Adam Thielen at number 30 against the Cowboys. What's the case for him this week?
Listen, Jay, you may want to perk up about this because,
You-
Jay's built
Cha-
his entire playoff.
Channel your inner Tanner Santucci.
I
and
know.
stuff.
You have Josh Allen, I have Adam Thielen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, it's a positive matchup. Over the last month, the Cowboys allow the 5th highest catch rate to the slot, which is obviously where Thielen runs the majority of his route. He's had a 28% target share the last 2 weeks. He leads all players with 18 slot targets as well during that stretch. We've talked about how Bryce Young has looked better. There's a connection there between him and Thielen. They're home favorites, but not by a lot. They're not going to blow them out so much they're going to stop throwing. So, yes, I do think Adam Thielen for Chubby Magic or whatever it is you change your name to, the Grape Slappers. What he called it? What did you change it to?
A mid-show name change.
He
How did
called
this come
it. He
about?
changed it to the Chub Slappers.
Yeah.
if we
no,
didn't
what's-
do that,
what's
that-
the new
that-
name?
That would be inappropriate.
Yeah, let America know.
Yeah, no, I need to change up the mojo on my team because I'm scuffling.
Yeah.
I'm on the trajectory downwards. So I changed the name, and now we're no longer Slap Them Like a Grape. We are all caps Chubby Magic.
Chubby
'Cause we're
Magic.
I need the big game from the Chubbler.
Yeah,
I
of
need
course.
magic from the Chubbler.
And,
So you heard Matthew
and his
mention it early
teammate,
in the
Adam
show,
Thielen.
and it just stuck with
And
you.
Adam Thielen as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my Panthers stack. the Chubby Magic Panthers stack. It's one of the
fantastic.
less magical stacks that you'll have, but I need a big game from Chuba. Yeah.
I think you're going to get it, too.
Yeah,
I think you're going to get it.
I hope so.
Few people on earth would employ the Panthers stack. You being one of them.
Yeah, that's why
He
we're Chubby
embraces
Magic.
variance. Yeah. God bless.
Dear.
Okay.
All right.
Turn the focus from Adam Thielen over to Jerry Jeudy against the Chiefs this week.
So it was a down game last week for Jerry Jeudy by his standards that he's established in primetime against the Broncos, but still 5 for 64 on a touchdown. I think that is the new kind of barometer for Jerry Jeudy. Favorable matchup against the Chiefs pass defense that has been terrible of late. Tough conditions, but still, I think you feel pretty good about starting Jerry Jeudy in every league this week.
For sure.
10 more wide receiver ranks to go. Rome Odunze coming off fantasy production-wise, one of his best games we've seen all season in his rookie year with Caleb Williams. The two appear to be syncing up together.
They'll take some deep shots to him as well. Vikings allow the most receptions on deep passes this season. He's had a 20% target share for the past 5. He's wide receiver 32 for me this week.
I'm really liking Darnell Mooney after the big game last week. I think he could go for over 100 yards again against the Raiders.
Yeah, he got back on track after 2 bad weeks, now facing the Las Vegas defense that just allowed 191 receiving yards to Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, and Mike Evans. So we definitely like Mooney this week.
Tight end time, 1 through 10. Sam Laporta, part of that game with the implied game total with the Bills at 54.5. Back kind of where he belongs for what we were forecasting beginning of the season as a top 5 tight end play.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Since week 8, he's had over a 20% target share, 3 straight games with multiple red zone targets. So Sam Laporta, who came into the season as the number 1 tight end in fantasy and then was not very productive for a long time, now back into the top 10. I have him as tight end 5.
All right, we got a guy on my team, Brock Bowers.
Oh, really?
On pace to have a record-setting rookie season at tight
Can I
end
have
number
him?
2.
Can I have him? So I'm starting Jake Ferguson and Kate Otten, perhaps. Look, tough game for Brock Bowers last week against the Bucs. Think that he is just so high of a floor that you're never concerned about Brock Bowers, and he should get right. Continue his stealthy offensive rookie of the year campaign should Jaden Daniels ever slip up.
11 through 20. The Bucs' Cade Otton has been a big part of that Tampa Bay passing offense, Matthew, for our guy Baker Mayfield under center.
Yeah, and look, I mean, he's been a top 10 guy for quite some time, and he's now at 15. Here's the concern. He's played 9 full games when Mike Evans is healthy, as he is today. Just a 16% target share. He averages under 7 fantasy points per game in those 9 games with Mike Evans healthy. And the Chargers are a tough out, right? Since week 5, only 2 tight ends have scored double-digit fantasy points against the Bolts. That's Mark Andrews and Trey McBride. I'm not sure Cade Otton is at that level just yet. He's my tight end 15.
How about Tucker Kraft at 12 this week, part of our Sunday night game in Seattle, Lawrence?
Yeah, if there's any Packers pass catcher that you're going to trust, you should trust Tucker Kraft the most, mainly because of the touchdowns. He scored in 2 of the last 3 games. He has 7 touchdowns this season. That leads the Green Bay Packers. So if you're gonna go with a streaming tight end, I would roll with Tucker Kraft.
Okay, this man warming up. It's looking like at least 71 rushing yards. What say you, Lawrence?
Definitely gonna get that 71 there. That we do know. The 40 fantasy points that my daughter put out will be in a little bit of question. Maybe he get 38, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes against these Giants, who was the last NFC team to beat them.
Wow.
Go Giants, go G-Man.
Let's go.
There he is. The Chubbler.
The Chubbler in the building.
In the building. Hashtag Pro Bowl vote.
Magical.
Panthers pumping up the Chubbler. Think he's got a Pro Bowl shot with what he's done this year?
I think he's an MVP candidate.
We're not even through beer goggles yet.
I mean, legit Pro Bowl stuff, though. He's amongst the league's leading rushers.
Yep.
You know.
Allen, Lamar, Saquon, Chubbler.
Chubbler.
No, all in the same sentence. For those new to the game here on
Yes.
Fantasy Football Pregame, I know you like breaking it down. Beer goggles, scale of 1 to 5 beers. How many beers would it take you to start these players? Our first matchup, Dallas at Carolina. So, Matthew, Rico Dowdle, how many beers?
0 beers. I can be stone cold sober
Whoa.
and slap Rico Dowdle right into my lineup. 60 touches over the past 3 games. Third most among all running backs over that stretch. He's getting a massive workload on the road at Carolina, where over the past 4 weeks, the Panthers, your Panthers, Jay Croucher, allowing an NFL high 154 rushing yards per game. They're giving up 6 yards per carry. They don't want Cooper Rush throwing this ball. It's going to be all Rico. Rico versus the Chubbler. That's what we have to look forward to this afternoon in Carolina.
Yeah, no one wants Cooper Rush throwing the ball. Not America, Australia, Venezuela.
Or Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, Mike
George
McCarthy.
wanted him throwing the ball when he had Jalen
Tolbert,
Tolbert in
big
there.
time.
And he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3 yards.
Yeah.
that's going to be on my tombstone. Needed
It
3
is.
yards.
Needed 3 yards.
And next year when you're desperate and you come to me, I'm going to be like, why didn't you ask Jay? I'm just gonna be a passive aggressive little bitch.
Yeah.
Just be like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you who's going to get 3 yards on Monday night. You figure it out yourself, George.
Elephant, you never forget.
Yeah, 1000%.
Sticking with the Cowboys, Jake Ferguson back in the fold at tight end.
Yeah, another Cooper Rush victim from last week. Jake Ferguson narrowly missing his receiving prop over 2 beers. I think that they're going to need to throw for better or worse. Also, the Panthers play a ton of man coverage. That emphasizes your best receiving options typically, and that's CeeDee Lamb and it's Jake Ferguson. So I think that Ferguson feels like a 5 for 48 type of get day for Jake. Yeah.
What are we thinking with Xavier Legette, Morris?
I'm with you, Matthew, on Legette. I like him for the future, but he hasn't scored in 3 games, hasn't crossed 60 receiving yards in 9 games. So I'm going to need 4 beers and no raccoons to start Xavier Legette.
Was raccoons on the menu? Where are we drinking these beers?
I don't know, but Xavier Legette eat raccoons.
Does he really?
He
I
said
missed that. He
Yeah,
did?
that's why I brought it up
That-
earlier. He said on
yeah,
Thanksgiving he
he-
had
he-
raccoon.
Big country guy
missed
from
that.
down there.
I missed that as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was he did it on the Monroe St. Brown's podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
He was like, I eat that coon, and then Amon-Ra Brown's like, eat that coon, and they start laughing. They was, it was funny. Yeah, funny.
That's
I
right.
assume that
There's a lot of jokes
He
that
ate it
I'm
for
just
Thanksgiving.
Gonna, that I'm just gonna.
No, it wasn't a joke though.
I know.
he really
I'm-
had
I'm
raccoon
just
for
gonna-
Thanksgiving.
He said we ate
does
that
raccoon
coon.
taste like?
I don't know. Only
he
Xavier
talk about
Legette.
it?
He said
Did he say-
he they hunt the raccoon, they skin them, and they eat them. Said his cousins and them hooked it up.
There's not enough beers on planet Earth for me to eat raccoon.
I agree.
Afterwards.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough putt.
Miami at Houston. Smooth segue to Jalen Waddle for you, Matthew. How many beers?
Just 2 beers. Look, season high in targets, receptions last week. He's had a 20% target share in 3 of the last 5 games. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game his last 3. He has 2 20-point games, but he also has he had 1 lower game in there. So Jalen Waddle, again, he was so bad at the beginning of the year, 8 or more, basically averaged 8 fantasy points in his first 10. So I understand the trepidation. So I'd want 2 beers. I'd want to feel like a little loose. I'm feeling okay. But ultimately I think Jalen Waddle has a nice game today. He's wide receiver 26 for me on the road at Houston. Over the last month, Texans allowed the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, and it does feel like this Miami Dolphins offense is finally in sync and getting going.
Same narrative with Tank Dell, and we thought once Diggs went out for the season, Dell would really cement himself as the number 2. He was the number 1 for 3-4 weeks with Nico Collins out. We haven't seen the results. So how many beers for you to start him?
4 beers for Tank Dell. And it's all like Joe Mixon gets such volume, you always have to see him as a wide receiver as well, because he takes away wide receiver targets from the pass catchers. So I think that Tank Dell, it just hasn't happened for him. He's 3 straight games where he hasn't top 4 receptions, and he's another guy where he's a victim of the fact that there are no buys this week. Like, there's just such a wealth of wide receiver options to go with, and so you can probably do better than Tank Dell.
Also been a sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. How many beers would you need to put him in your lineup this week?
I would say 3, and I kind of like the back and forth potential of scoring in this game, but he's quarterback 25 this season in points per game. He's finished his quarterback 24 or worse in 5 of his last 7 games, so just been that kind of season for him. He hasn't played he hasn't played bad football. It's just from a fantasy perspective, he ain't been able to get it done, so at least 3 beers.
Bills at Lions next. That over-under, we've been touting 54.5 quickly. You guys taking over-under in that game?
Over.
Yeah.
We're all over across the board, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think.
It might be a 70-point game.
So with Khalil Shakir, who had that big game last week against the Rams, how many beers this week?
1 beer, maybe I'm halfway through a second. So 1.5 beers. Shakir has seen at least 5 slot targets in 7 straight games. He truly is a slot merchant. Wide receivers that have seen at least 5 slot targets against the Lions, averaging over 17 fantasy points per game. That is an area that you can attack the Lions, is the middle of the field. So Shakir, even with more problems to deal with it from the Lions secondary, right? Kincaid, we expect Kincaid to be active. We expect Keon Coleman to be out there as well for some snaps. But still, Shakir has had the most consistent connection with Josh Allen throughout this season.
You press start with Amari Cooper. How many beers are you holding?
Just 1 beer for Amari Cooper. He will come up later in the segment, so I shall give my reasoning then.
All right. Interesting. Interesting.
Very tight-lipped.
Yeah.
We mentioned Jameson Williams earlier in the show, and he's really been thriving at home for us.
Just 2 beers for Jameson Williams, and I'll give my reasoning later in the show.
Oh, point, counterpoint.
There we go.
Okay.
Colts at Broncos, our last game with Michael Pittman. It's been a lost year to this point. How many beers to start him?
3.5, and on my way to 7. Look, first off, I want to be pretty blitzed. I want to be like the night Jay and I spent in Buffalo. I want to be that level of drunk. It was still a magical night, but hazy. Expected to be shadowed by Patrick Surtain. That's one thing. You don't love that as well. 6 of the 8 full games that he's played with Anthony Richardson, he's been under 50 receiving yards. Just doesn't seem like he has a great connection with A-Rich. And then you think about this Broncos secondary that has allowed a touchdown on a league low 2.8% of wide receiver targets this year. Like, the defense just doesn't give up a ton of touchdowns. Pittman doesn't score a lot. There's not a connection there. And again, we expect Surtain to be on him a decent amount. He's just my wide receiver 39 this week.
Okay, next guy, Anthony Richardson, and surprisingly, this question going to you and not Lawrence. How many beers?
Yeah, just 1 beer for Anthony. I believe in AR5. I think he's seriously turned the corner since his benching. And yes, it is a tough matchup against the Broncos, but at the same time, no Riley Moss. That means more Levi Wallace. He was the guy who got roasted for 500 yards by Jerry Jeudy in primetime. So I think that Richardson, also his scrambling ability makes him more immune to elite defenses, because even if the play is perfectly covered, he can still produce value. So I think Anthony Richardson, good chance to score a touchdown, and I feel very comfortable starting him.
Okay. You say immune to elite
There you go,
defenses.
Jay.
They just got spanked at home against the Lions 26-7 when he went 11.
That's fine. You say his receivers dropped about 7 touchdowns.
You got to watch the game for that one.
George doesn't watch the game. He's not a game watcher.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
He's on date night with a girlfriend. Talking her ear off about Jalen Tolbert.
Yep, pretty much. Yep,
Yeah.
That's a window into my soul. Javonte Williams.
The fact that she didn't break up with you, like, you need to make an honest woman of that. You know, you need to make an honest woman with her. You gotta lock that down.
She's a winner for sure, while
Yeah.
I'm a loser.
You
It's
are
a good
loser,
balance. Hopefully the League of Assholes can, balance the scales. How many beers to start Javonte Williams?
4. He has 8 total yards from scrimmage in his last 2 games, and the Broncos switch lead running backs every week. So 4 beers.
Okay, you total it up, Lawrence, the big goose hound this week, with 13 beers for those 4 players, taking it deep. And we work our way to pickup lines, brought to you by DraftKings. These are the season stats, and Jay has picked up Barry 9 times, Lawrence 7. Jay has been unstoppable, cashing his bets 75% of the time, 12-4 record. Lawrence, even Steven, 8-8 on the year.
They should, alter my record, because Desmond Ridder came in last week and threw 19 passes, and my bet was Trey Tucker. So we need to do something. We need to do something. That's 19 passes that could have been going. Whatever. Yeah. We'll take 50% on plus money, and we'll start again right here with Jameson Williams, right? 60 receiving yards for Jameson Williams. We talked about this over-under all day today. We all think it's going over. That's at plus 125. He averages 85 yards at home this season. In the 6 home games that he's played, he's had 1 game under 60 yards. So he averages 80. All I'm asking is for a little 60 yards right here. Look, the other 5, he's had at least 79 in his other 5 home games. So you get 85 yards at home, and I'm saying, hey, Matthew, take this 60 yards in this 54.5 over-under game and be happy.
Okay, I'm staying in the same game. I'm taking Amari Cooper over 48.5 receiving yards. I think we don't need to complicate this. The total is 54.5, and this is Josh Allen's #1 wide receiver. He played 55% of the snaps last week and still had 14 targets. The Lions, they play a ton of man coverage. Man coverage places more emphasis on going to your best receivers and their ability to separate. It's less about space and scheme. It's more just about who can get open. Amari Cooper, #1 option for Josh Allen. He went 6 catches for 95 yards last week. I think he can get to 49 in a game with a total of 54.5.
I like both the bets. It's interesting because both guys, the argument you can be made against both of them, right, is that there's so many mouths to feed in both the Buffalo offense and the Detroit Lions offense as well. That's my concern, though. I know that we all think the Lions win this game, right? We're all taking Detroit, and so my concern here, Lawrence, is that they run the ball a lot. There's some Laporte. I like Laporte in this game. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tim Patrick is starting to come on for the Lions as well. Whereas the Bills, I think they're going to be chasing more. Who knows how healthy and how many snaps Kincaid and Keon Coleman will play. So Cooper, after the game last week, feels like he's probably earned more confidence from Josh Allen. So it's 12-4, Lawrence. I'm going home with Jay.
That's Amari.
Yeah, it's Amari. I'm going home with Jay.
He is 12-4, and 12-4 is hard to do. There's also context involved in these bets. So, but like I said, it's
no. You take plus money. You aim for the fences.
You
I'm
know,
a -110 kind of guy.
Yeah.
Look, I like the Cooper bet too. I actually wrote about him this week, so I don't. Hey, I would take an alt line though. That's
that's
me.
you.
But
I'm trying to decide whether you should be plus money Lawrence Jackson or alt line Jackson.
Alt-line Jackson.
Yeah.
Alt Jackson.
do it all.
Alt-line
Do it
Jackson.
all.
But obviously, as always, keep your phone on. I may roll through when I'm done with Jay, saying you up?
When I'm done with Jay.
Wow. Terrifying
Like a
words.
scallywag.
I would tail both bets. I like both of those.
I
So
do too.
tonight, NFC battle in the Pacific Northwest, Jordan Love and the Packers against Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Coverage begins 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Still more to come as you're watching Week 15 of Fantasy Football Pregame.
Yeah, 12-4. It ain't like you be going -400 there.
Got to buy a half yard last week.
Then I'd be like, all right, yeah.
Bringing it on home on Fantasy Football Pregame, and Derrick Henry is going to enjoy this week in New York, and you're going to enjoy having Derrick Henry on your fantasy team, assuming that you are in the playoffs. But for some owners, they may have a bye this week. So Derrick Henry, while playing in the fantasy world, could be sitting on the sidelines for week number 15. Here is our touchdown parlay from Fantasy Football Pregame. We have come so close. This could be the week.
Yep.
Plus 908. We got Josh Allen, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson Jr., and Joe Mixon as our fearsome foursome.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of, to me, Lawrence talked about Josh Allen earlier in terms of the MVP vote. You heard me talk about Brian Robinson. Montgomery is always a guy. Montgomery and Mixon are two guys that always seem to get into the end zone.
Joe Mixon's been healthy for 9 games this season. He's got a touchdown in 8 of them.
I think we're getting it this week, fellas.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we did get it once. It was when George was away.
That's right. Yeah, we've gotten it with Brittany, just not George.
Yep. Last call.
Yes. Look at these standings. I'm coming back, Lawrence. Don't look behind you.
I'm making you think you are.
Please.
I'm making you think you are.
Yeah, Lawrence, 10 games over 500. Jay, right at 500. 88, 88, and 3. And Matthew, just 3 games back, 90, 86, and 3. Or 3 prop bets.
Start with Lawrence.
Okay. Got 3 minutes.
He's in first.
Yeah. I'll take that.
It's
I'll
his
take
show.
that.
He can order us around.
I'll take that.
More passing yards, Patrick Mahomes or Jameis Winston?
Patrick Mahomes.
Jameis.
More receptions, T. Higgins or Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley.
I agree, Ridley.
More fantasy points, Brian Robinson or Terry McLaurin?
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson.
More fantasy points, Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry?
Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar.
More total yards, Rico Dowdle or the Chubla?
The Chubla.
Ooh, give me the Chubler.
Yeah.
Chubler?
Yeah, I'll go with the
Chubby for
Chubler.
you?
That
Chuba
close
Hubbard.
too, though.
Yeah.
Chubby for me, chubby for you, chubby
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Lawrence.
3 Chubbies.
More receiving yards, Garrett Wilson or Brian Thomas Jr.?
Give me Garrett Wilson.
Brian Thomas.
I'll take Brian Thomas Jr. as well.
Our next one, more total yards, Devon Achane or Joe Mixon?
Devon Achane.
Joe Mixon.
He's breaking one.
This one is for the true believers. More fantasy points, Bo Nix or Anthony Richardson?
AR.
Bo Nix.
There we go. Matthews on board. More rush yards, James Cook or David Montgomery?
James Cook.
David Montgomery. Is he Sonic or Knuckles? Whichever one he is.
Knuckles, clearly.
Okay.
Knuckles, come on.
Stop it. I don't know.
More passing yards, Jalen Hurts or Russell Wilson?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
I bought what you were selling on
glad you
Friday's
did.
show. More total yards, James Conner or Ramondre Stevenson?
Ew.
James Conner.
Connor.
More receiving yards, Ladd McConkey or Mike Evans?
Evans.
More receiving yards.
That was the question.
Yeah, I'll go McConculus.
The Gladiator.
No.
You're not entertained by that one, are you?
No, exactly.
More fantasy points, our final question. Zach Charbonnet or Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs.
Zach Charbonnet.
This will be the week. This is the week of massive separation, or somebody else gets the lead
Zach
for the first
Charbonnet
time.
for me.
All right, there you go.
You feeling confident, Lawrence?
Yeah, I am. More than last week, definitely. We'll
That's good
see
to
how
know.
it
That's
goes.
good enough.
It's week 15. I'm sending you good fantasy karma through the television set. Here's hoping for no more Cooper Kupps today.
Or Jalen Tolbert's.
Or Jalen Tolbert.
Or Jalen Tolbert.
Big game coming up for Jalen Tolbert. Take the over.
Jalen Tolbert's going to go mon. Yeah, exactly. He's
80
going to go nuclear.
yards, 2 touchdowns.
Easy. He's going to catch a 70-yarder. Play on. It's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Lawrence, Jay, and George, I'm Matthew. Go get yourself a win. We'll see you tomorrow for happy hour. Peace out.